Hello, Internet, and welcome back to One Piece. Because at long last, after a month of waiting, chapter 1054 is here. So, when we last left our heroes, we were learning a lot of things. Like new facts and new statistics and things. We learned Luffy, Kid, and Law's new bounties. They are all even at 3 billion. But Luffy's new bounty picture is one taken by the CP0 agent Guernica of his awakened Gear 5 Nika form. So the world government is not happy about that. But meanwhile, Ryokugyu, whose real name is Aramaki, which is Japanese, so perhaps that ties him into Wano. I know not every character with a Japanese name is from Wano, but it's something to keep in mind, given that's where he's been introduced. He has arrived. His power is to turn his fingers into roots and drain people of their moisture. We also learn that Tenguyama is actually Odin's father, Sukiyaki. He reveals this to Robin, along with revealing that the poneglyph back in Alabasta revealed that Pluton was in Wano, which adds all kinds of dimensions to Crocodile's goals, but that's not really the important thing here. So that's a whole thing to worry about. Also, there is a poneglyph in Sukiyaki's room, which I don't think we quite found out what was going on with that. But back at the party, Kid arrives to attack Luffy, because Kid now has the news that the world government has named 4 new emperors. Blackbeard and Shanks have stayed the same, and the new ones are Luffy and my boy Buggy the Clown, somehow failing his way up into a fucking Yonko position. What a king. We stand. So with that said, let's dive right on into chapter 1054, with a color spread of all 4 of the emperors. Nika, Luffy, Blackbeard, Shanks, and Buggy. And also Ryokugyu was on his way to Wano. That's the last thing we saw last chapter. So let's dive right on into chapter 1054, Flame Emperor. We open on the flower capital of Wano. Denjiro, you notice too? We mustn't let Sir Luffy and his companions hear about this. Come, cat. Huh? So the Scabbards seem to be headed to something. And then we see Ryokugyu, or Aramaki, so I assume they're headed towards Aramaki. The thing about influence is, when you really want it, Aramaki puts his foot down and we see flowers spring up behind him. An inverse of his sort of rot powers we've seen. It can be hard to gain. And he notices a group of samurai blocking his path to the capital of Raizo, Shinobu, Inuarashi, Denjiro, Nekomamushi, and Kappa Guy. Kawamatsu. I was about to say Kondro. I know that's not right. But they're blocking his path to protect Luffy from dealing with this guy, letting him party. And Raizo comments, he's from the Navy. They're Sir Luffy's enemies abroad. And Aramaki points at them as trees start to grow out of him. So, you know how things work outside of here? The celestial dragons are the gods of the world. And here in this country, unaffiliated with the world government, you have no human rights. Okay, I don't know if you've actually heard that phrased like that. You would think it would be the exact opposite. That unaffiliated with the world government can't really do anything, though the world government certainly would not see things that way. But Aramaki is, it's an interesting, because I don't think we've really seen any of the admirals be so, dyed in the wool for the celestial dragons, right? I certainly didn't get that impression from Aokiji. I don't think Kizaru spent a lot of time talking about the dragons. Certainly not from Fujitora. And Sakazuki always seemed a bit more self-serving than anything else. But Aramaki here, or Ryokugyu, I've been using their code names. I'll change which one I use at any given time. But Aramaki here, he seems to be very that's not it doesn't seem to be a sort of sorry about your lack of rights, but I have to do what I have to do, and I'm going to use that fact to stop you, or so to fight you. He seems to genuinely believe in his bullshit, that you have no human rights. Don't blame me for it. It's how the world works. And we see Inuarashi tries to cut down the roots, but they just keep coming. Groves of wrath. I'm a woodsman with the power of the woods fruit. The forest is just as much the cradle of life as the sea. It is pure logia, nature itself. And he spawns from his own arms. It's not just roots, it's these plants they kind of remind me of the hands from Elantir in 100 Years Quest. But like, except they're, instead of just being like condensed magic, they are pure plant fists that rise up and attack the Scabbards. And we cut to, we have this like, this sort of contrast image with the party. As Aramaki goes on, let me teach you something. Humankind has lasted through the ages by creating and defining the inferior. All the rest of us can look down our noses at you unaffiliated countries. Discrimination creates solace. That's a fucked up worldview. But also, that's very much something we have not really, it's an interesting thing because he's I'm not interesting in terms of its relative morality, it's distinctly fucked up, but like, he's acknowledging the arbitrariness of inferiority and superiority. He's not saying you are inferior. We have said someone is inferior and that is peace. It's a very, very fucked up worldview, but like, he does seem to on some level acknowledge the arbitrariness of it all, which does not make it better. Also, I think sort of the contrast, there's something in the random shot to the festival that seems sort of thematically significant. Like, I can't quite work out what it's doing, but it's definitely trying to achieve something. Either, like, I feel like either we're meant to see the people here, that, like, maybe the people letting the samurai fight for them is what allows them to have solace, and in Aramaki's viewpoint, that makes them the inferior to the citizens? I don't know. Or maybe it's meant to contrast Aramaki's point, that, like, they viewed unaffiliated countries as inferior, but they're clearly, like, having a good time while the rest of the world is stuck with the government. I don't know. It's an interesting point. It's an interesting random cutaway. And Aramaki, at this point, has become a full-on giant tree guy. It doesn't matter how many people die in this country, because the law does not apply here. Just try to stop me. I'll kill thousands of you. Anything to ensure I reach Straw Hat Luffy. And then Yamato shows up from the distance and tells him, you won't be doing, and he swings the club down, knocking Aramaki into the ground. A single word of that. And Aramaki picks himself up, rubs his head. Yeah, that's some tough hockey. And Yamato defends the Scabbards, who are all alive at this point. None of them have actually perished from Aramaki's attacks yet. And Yamato tells him, the people have withstood 20 years of oppression. I won't let you ruin their chance to finally celebrate and allow their hearts to feel free again. And I can't tell if this is Aramaki's line or if one of the Scabbards has not met him yet. I think it's probably Aramaki who questions, who are you? But I think it's Kawamatsu who just lets out, Sir Yamato. And Yamato tells Aramaki, I'm Yamato, the son of Kaido. And Aramaki just questions, son of Kaido? And then Dragon Momo appears. Well said, Yamato. The heroes have yet to heal from their battle, and we won't allow you to harm them. A dragon! Blast breath! And he attacks Aramaki, or he tries to, but because Momo is just kind of still weak, even if he's an adult now, it does very little. It's a little puff of smoke. It kind of kills the mood. And then we get another shot of the party. Oh, no. We had that Stomp Trump. I wish I had access to the Nika Awakening chapter, because that might be the Drums of Freedom. That might be Joy Boy's heartbeat that we're hearing there. Which, given that Luffy is there, that feels like an important cutaway. Let me see if it did that. Yeah, we do hear the Stomp Trump again on that earlier panel on page 5 or 6, somewhere in there is in the middle. And One Piece is not one for like defined page breaks on a 2-page spread. Anyway, Momonosuke! Lord Momonosuke! And Momo kind of takes a minute to realize that plan didn't work, and he goes on the attack again, as I was saying. And he chomps into Aramaki's arm. Leave this place! Be gone from the capital! Do not make them worry! I swore an oath to them! And Aramaki, who seemingly has not heard of Momo at all, or might just be he hasn't heard of the adult Momo. Momo's so time displaced at this point that like it's perfectly possible the world gov has just not heard of him yet. Do not make them worry. I swore an oath to them. And Aramaki just confused at his arrival. A pink dragon. That's weird. I haven't heard of anyone with those powers. But Aramaki binds Momo up in his, like vines. Move it! And, like, lifts him up with the plant. As the samurai react, Momonosuke! But Momo calls to Yamato, Yamato! You must not fight! Why? Because he's a Straw Hat now? And, like, they're fighting to let the Straw Hats not fight? Yamato's equally confused. What? And then we cut to the scene near Wano, before we deal with, whatever's going on with Momo and Yamato. And we can see just the half of a pirate flag, but it sure is a familiar one. There's a weird one mixed into the bunch. Let's go to him, Captain. Luffy's a great pirate now. This must be, because we see the flag, and it's the Red Hair Pirates. I'm assuming as they've learned about the Four Emperors. The weird one being, how the fuck did Bucky get in there? Which is still just the funniest thing Oda's done in a long time. But Shanks looks around at where he is. It's been ages. Haven't been here since we said farewell to Odin. I suppose Momo and Hiyori are all grown up now. He's not wrong on the Hiyori side, and maybe not wrong for the Momo side. That's a very complicated turn of phrase. We see the Red Hair Pirates, most of whom, beyond Yasop's name, I have not quite remembered. I think, is Benny Roo the large guy? Captain, let's go see Luffy. We see another one who I don't recognize. He's amazing. Look how far he's come. Then Yasop sort of pushes back. Wait, let's not disembark. I don't think I'm ready to see Usopp yet. Which, there's an interesting little parallel to Yasop and Usopp there, because it's always Usopp who's like, maybe, the I don't want to go to this island disease Usopp jokes. And it's a very different thing. Usopp did that in his cowardly past, right? About facing actual physical danger, whereas Yasop is running away from his duties as a father still. And then I think that's the first mate, the long-haired guy at the end. That's not named Kid is still around, right? He's got to pay for picking a fight with us. That's sort of like... Is Kid still gunning to take Shanks' head, or did that get sort of ignored once he got roped into the Kaido shit? I don't really remember. But Shanks is looking at the newspaper and thinks, well. And we see, he's looking at the Nika picture. And as y'all will recall, we learned a little bit about the capture of the Gum fruit from Who's Who earlier in the arc. And we see a flashback that seems to be Shanks' memory of that incident. That's Red Hair's ship. And then... So we see the Red Hairs are chasing a government ship, seeing that there are CP9 agents on board. That's trouble. But Shanks just tells them, nothing to worry about. We sail. And then the cannons start firing, they're attacking each other. And then we see the young Who's Who. What are they after? There's no treasure here, only a single devil fruit. What could that mean to them? It just turns you into rubber, right? And then the battle is over. They're at Luffy's village. Luffy and Shanks have their young bonding. I guess I'm not sure which of these panels is is this first Luffy panel post the eating of the gum fruit? Because we move from that to the bit on the cliff side to the Sea King that eats Shanks' hand. We see the stump of the hand, not even a stump at that point, still an open wound. And Shanks clutches the old wound. And we see, I think these might be some newer guys in the Red Hair Pirates who don't know Luffy. Who all comment, guess all the bosses know that Straw Hat Luffy guy. You know what I heard about Straw Hat Luffy? He's there's ape-type mink, I think, says that he's some monstrous, uncontrollable ape of a man, which is clearly, a joke about how he looks. At least, that's what they say. And then Shanks tells the group, I'm not interested in seeing Luffy. And, is that Benny Roo? Is Benny Roo his name? I'm gonna look at that one up real fast. Right? Something like that. Lucky Roo. Lucky Roo was the name. And Ben Beckman was, the other guy. The longer-haired guy, right? Okay, that's where I got the confusion. So Lucky Roo reacts, what? No! But Shanks tells him, remember what's happening in our territory now? And one of the other guys comments, oh, there's that follower of Luffy's, Bart something. He burned our flags down and replaced them with Luffy's, which I did. I think that was in the cover story with Bartolomeo during the saga of the Grand Fleet or whatever. And Shanks tells them, so how would that make me look? What happens to the trust put in me? So Shanks, we see he has some kind of caring for Luffy, and also caring about the significance of the Gum Gum fruit. But also he's the pirate through and through. Before he's Luffy's mentor, he's like a guy with responsibilities above being Luffy's mentor. And the guys comment, well, okay, I guess you have a point. And then he goes over to Ben, who just sort of looks at him. Or I guess Beck is his go-to nickname, because he pours him some sake and Shanks drinks it. Say, Beck, I think it's time we make our move. And Beckman looks at him as Shanks tells him, let's claim the One Piece. Okay, we're getting to some actual Shanks shit. Because Shanks has spent the better part of 25 years lurking in the background beyond Marineford. He's actually doing stuff. Okay. Then we get to Navy HQ in the New World. As there's just like reports going on at HQ. We can't let the revolutionaries keep running unchecked at Kainu. I know that, but we don't have the troops to send. They're calling him Flame Emperor Sabo now. He's the hero of the entire world. Okay. So Sabo is not dead. He is, is he head of the revolution? Is that the implication there? He's the emperor. What does that mean about Dragon, though? And then someone is still talking to Akainu here. That might be Smoker, but I can't really tell. 800 years ago, the world government was created by 20 founders. Of their descendants, only Nefertari Cobra attended the Reverie this year. Oh. Which is why his murder was so meaningful to the Revolutionary Army. Okay. So, Sabo kills Cobra is the headline of the newspaper they are all looking at. Okay. So that's... is that real? Or is there... Cobra is just the weirdest person. I guess if he's the only one of those of the descendants of the founders, I can see why the revolution would, go for him. But also, it seems like he'd be the most sympathetic to, overturning the World Gov. Given that it was, in part, the World Gov's Shichibukai system that, fucked with Alabasta for so long. But I don't know. I can see why the revolution would kill Cobra. I can also see why it might have been, pretended to kill him so he can join if he's sympathetic to their cause, potentially. I don't know. Also, what does this mean for Vivi? Because, Vivi and her savior's brother killed her father. A whole lot there. Just hours before that, in the land of the gods, the living area of the celestial dragons, they destroyed the hoof of the celestial dragon, symbol of the world nobles, in a declaration of war. I don't think we've seen the hoof of the celestial dragons before, but it does feel like an echo of the flag of Enies Lobby, way back in Enies Lobby. Admirals Ryokugyu and Fujitora led the navy into battle, but in the end, the ex-revolutionary and celestial dragon slave Bartholomew Kuma was freed, and all the revolutionaries escaped. Okay, that's some good shit. Kuma's back. I'm certain it was difficult for the admirals to exhibit their full powers in the land of the gods. But Akainu's not on board with that. Don't make excuses for them. And what about the disappearance of Princess Vivi, which happened at the same time as Cobra's murder? Okay, so Vivi's also missing. What is that going to be about? I don't know. All these pieces, Oda's just dumping into our lap after a month away. And we see the guy who's been talking to is the director of the Naval Bureau of Investigation, Kuroma or Tensei. I think Kuroma would be the nickname. That's like Black Bear, I think, that follows the nickname conventions. Or the code name, whatever you want to call it. Tensei would be his real name. Kuruma tells him, "We're still investigating the matter, as well as any possible connections between the two." And as Akainu walks away, just comments, "It's a double blow for Alabasta. Their ship's still at the Red Port, in fact. They can't send it home with all this going on." And then Borsalino's there, who comments, "Can we assume the attempted murder of St. Charlos is solved then?" And I think this is still Borsalino's line. "As far as the accusation that St. Miosgard let the attacker escape, that's being deliberated in the land of the gods. The holy knights have intervened, and it's all a big mess now." Okay, so I think we might be getting more information on what exactly is going on in Celestial Dragonland, because the holy knights are a new term, right? We've never heard that one in this series before. But Sakazuki just barks back, "Let them figure it out." But Tensei goes on, "But in each case, the public is convinced that Sabo was the one pulling the strings, and is causing quite a stir. Add to that the recent events orchestrated during the King's return, with the Eight Nation Revolution, and now the many sparks of rebellion smoldering all over the world." That's a bunch of terms there. The King's return, the Eight Nation Revolution, we don't have any idea what those are. And now the many sparks of rebellion smoldering all over the world are beginning to worship him, like he's some kind of god. And we see that, like, Sabo has become this cult figure somewhere. The Flame Emperor! Sabo! Sabo! At this point in time, he's so popular that he might have more influence than Dragon, commander-in-chief of the revolutionaries. And Borsalino comments, "And now his brother, Straw Hat Luffy, is an emperor of the sea." And we see, I think this is back at wherever the Sabo, ceremony is. This guy announces, "And the world of pirates, the Flame Emperor's brother, has upended the old order. The times are indeed changing." And Sakazuki looks down at the horizon and just says, "This is one hell of an age I had to be Fleet Admiral in. But no matter who comes at us, I'll drive each and every one of them back into the depths of the sea." To be continued. See you next week. Okay. So there's a lot going on here. Let's start at the beginning. Let's start with the Aramaki stuff. Is, like, most of what I have to say about that section is more just like, I think I sort of covered pretty well with Aramaki's belief system. The fact, there still is the mystery of why Momo doesn't want Yamato to fight. I'm assuming it's because Yamato as a Straw Hat is, like, included in the oath Momo swore to Luffy, and so, like, it's not his concern anymore. He is now a Straw Hat. Or maybe it's a sign that, like, it has to be Momo and his retainers that deal with this to, like, solidify Momo's claim to the shogunate. But there aren't really any competitors at this point. Like, that doesn't really make much sense. I don't know. But still, we do get a lot of Aramaki and his, fervent belief in whether or not he believes the celestial dragons are divine. He believes that the inequality they bring about is central to peace, which is a fucked up worldview, but it's the one that he has. So that's what we're dealing with right now. But there's a fun fight there. We learn a little bit more about Aramaki's powers. It's not just the life-draining thing. It's just a logia of a plant-type logia, that gives him all of this fucking ability to, like, the mass creation he does is just really cool. The Grows of Wrath thing. And then we get Shanks. A little bit, like, the flashback from the Shanks chapter, I think it's kind of not terribly important, if I'm being honest with you. There's nothing in there we don't know. We don't get any insight as to, like, what Shanks was thinking when he stole it, just that he did. That Who was telling the truth, which we kind of could have assumed once Luffy became Nika. And then after that, the rest of the Shanks stuff does give us some good shit. The bit about Shanks' priorities, he's more worried about being the captain of the Red Hair Pirates and the mentor to Luffy. But also, that just like Big Mom and Kaido, Shanks is now making his claim to the One Piece. And at this point, I don't think Shanks will, like, really enter the story proper until we get to the One Piece. I don't think he's going to show up again until we are, at Laugh Tale, that final conflict at the One Piece. If that is what the final conflict is, it might be like we get the One Piece and then there's a big conflict to, like, upend the world gov. I don't know. And then the rest of this is really good, but it's also it feels more like like, there's not a lot tied to, like, character work in the last 5 pages. It's a lot of, like, here's what's happened. Here's the thing that got teased 100 chapters ago, and now we're finding out what exactly happened. And that's big. You know, there's a lot I just need Oda to dig into to get that more, you know, character work out. The stuff that doesn't feel like it's there for the wiki. And I don't want to insult the last 5 pages by calling them just there for the wiki, because they're not. They're really good. There's just, like, you know, it's the answers for all these questions we've had for years now. And, you know, the things we learn is just good to hear. Which, you know, I think that says something about the quality of Oda's world building, of course, that, like, this stuff that really does kind of, when you take a look at it, feel like wiki bait, is just so fucking engaging. You know, Sabo has killed Cobra, supposedly. I'm not quite sure that's true or not. You know, the fact that Vivi disappeared right afterwards also feels very significant. And I really want to know what exactly is going on with that. Did Cobra and Vivi both sort of, like, stealth join the revolution? If so, you know, I don't think the Marines are hiding that information. Because I think Akainu would know. If this was a cover-up, if the Marines were actively staging a cover-up to not let it come out that a founding family of the world government had betrayed them, then I think Akainu would, like, you know, hold on, sorry, it's so hot in my apartment right now, I can't fucking think sometimes. If you've not noticed, like, the sweat drops all over my face over the past half hour. I think, like, if Akainu knew, if Sakazuki was aware that Cobra had defected to the revolution, he would hide it. But I think he'd also admit it to Borsalino and Tensei. But he doesn't. So I think he believes that Sabo killed Cobra, and he doesn't understand what happened to Vivi, even if my running theory is they both joined the revolution. I'm not quite sure, you know, what exactly their end is. I don't know. Maybe it's just they believe in the revolution. But also Kuma's freed, and that just feels good. You know, there is still a part of me that's like, I wish we could see some of this stuff. And I get why we don't. It's kind of typical for One Piece that, like, the stuff that doesn't... You know, at the end of an arc, you get this stuff of what happened in the world outside of Luffy and the gang. And, you know, this is really what that is. Those are always really fun, just, like, check in on the world. But also, things like Kuma being freed, I would really love to see, you know? I don't think we really ever will, except maybe in the anime. If the anime needs some, like, filler time. And then there's all these little things that Tensei mentions. The King's Return, the 8-Nation Revolution. And now, you know, the world government has a giant fucking problem on its hands. Revolution is growing. Sabo as its symbol, which is so cool. But also, does the world know that Sabo was himself a royal? Like, he rejected that royalty, and maybe the rejection would, like, make him well-liked by revolutionaries. But maybe it would do the exact opposite? I don't know. And then, yeah, Sakazuki makes his big declaration, you know, I'm not letting this go lying down. And I imagine, you know, I don't think that's going to be an immediate thing. I don't think the next arc is going to be dealing with Sakazuki. Even if we are in the final saga, I think there's still going to be a handful of, like, arcs as we head up to Laugh Tale. But yeah, there really is a sense that, like, all of the things that have been simmering for so long, for, like, the 25 years of this franchise's run, are starting to build, starting to burn. Those little sparks are starting to flame, to become a fire that will engulf the world of One Piece. And I can't wait to see how all that plays out. So yeah, great return. I'm so glad One Piece is back. I'm sure we still have a few years before we hit the real end of the series, but I'm just happy to be along for the ride. And with that said, I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you'll enjoy the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, or, you know, do whatever makes it happy, you know? And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!